What's up, everybody? Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, back with another daily deck tech video, and sometimes I go a little off the rails when I get an idea of something I want to do or a type of card that I really like. And in this instance, I really like the Avatar Experience Counter Commanders, but I wanted to do something a little unorthodox with them. So, as you can tell from the title of this deck, when the Avatar teams up with Eldrazi, we're going to be doing something a little odd today. So we're going to be running a little bit of an Eldritch abomination of a deck, if you will. We're going to be combining some things together that usually aren't going to be seen together. We have Azlask, the Swelling Scourge, as our commander today. And Azlask is a colorless commander, but does have Wooburg in the text, so you can play 5 colors. And says, whenever Azlask, the Swelling Scourge, or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Oh, that's not too bad. And then you can pay Wooburg. Creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. And then Scions and Spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. So the goal in this deck is we're going to use different cards, including the Avatar experience counter cards, and then also one Secret Lair card to get us some experience counters, benefit from those experience counters, while also having the colorless kind of Eldrazi Scion and Spawn sub-theme. So how are we going to do this? Well, today we're going to run the triad of Ugin here, is what I'm going to call this. We got 3 Ugins, the triad of Ugin. First we have Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Whenever you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. You can +2 them to gain 3. You can do 0 to gain 3 colorless mana. And you can -11 to search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards. Exile them, then shuffle. Till end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. Man, wouldn't it just be a blowout if you -11'd him and your opponent silenced you or Orms chanted you? Ooh, just absolute blowout. Ugin the Ineffable. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less. And exile the top card of your library face down. You can look at it. It's a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When that token leaves the battlefield, you put it in. Put the exiled card into your hand instead. And then -3. Destroy target permanent that's 1 or more color. Then we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon, the original. He is 8 and he has +2. He deals 3 damage to target creature any target. -X, exile each permanent with converted mana cost of X or less. That's 1 or more colors. And then -10 just pretty much says you win the game. It's you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So both him and Ugin Eye of the Storms have a ult ability that it should just win you the game. So our creatures. Here is where we have our unholy mixture and abomination. And, you know, I can't help, and I'm sure you'll have this critique too, I can't help but think of that quote from Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, which is the first movie I saw in theaters and one of my favorites of all time. They were so busy thinking if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. And so let me know if you think this is too off the rails. So creatures, we have Aang, Airbending Master. He's a 5-drop, 4/4, and when he enters, airbend another target creature. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 ally creature token for each experience counter you have. Now, we don't have a lot of airbending cards in this deck, so we're not going to be taking a whole lot of advantage of that, but he's going to generate for us a lot of tokens. And part of what we're trying to do here is generate lots of experience counters any way that we can, and then take advantage of those. This generates tokens, you know, etc. And then we have Adrix and Nev, Twin Casters. Ward 2/2/2. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, create twice that many tokens. So in this case, you know, Aang's going to create extra allies. We have some Scions and stuff. Then we have Atreus, Impulsive Sun. He is a 2/4, 4/3 with reach, and tap 3, draw a card for each experience counter you have, then discard a card. He deals 2 damage to each opponent. hopefully you're going to be generating enough experience counters that you're able to draw quite a few cards. Good value. Azula, Ruthless Firebender. She's a 3/3 for 3 with Firebending 1, and whenever Azula attacks, you may discard a card. Then you get an experience counter for each player who discarded a card this way. So obviously, you are the only one discarding here. And then until end of turn, Azula gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have and gains menace. So she becomes a beat stick. We have Blister Pod. It's a 1/1 for 1 with Devoid. And when it dies, you put a Scion into play. And Scions have sacrifice, add 1 colorless mana. We have Eldrazi Spawns, Sky Spawner, Flying, Devoid, 2/1. And when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi creature token onto the battlefield. Sack, add generic, obviously. So this does have a tiny amount of synergy, right? If you get, you can airbend it with Aang. And then we have Emrakul's Messenger, Flying, Devoid, 2/1. And this one puts a spawn into play, which adds specifically a colorless rather than a generic mana. We have Eyeless Watcher. When he enters the battlefield, you're going to put 2 Scions into play with their ability. Then we have Azuri Claw of Progress. Whenever a creature of power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. So this kind of combos very well with Aang, and then also each of your little Scion and Spawn generations. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put X/1/1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have. We have Glaring of Fleshraker, because this card is the devil. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you create a spawn, and whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So you're going to generate those spawns. And then we have Herald of Kozilek, 2/4 for 3, Devoid. Colorless spells you cast cost 1 less. Eldrazi spells are often overcosted, and so having them cost a little bit less is always nice. We have Katara, Waterbending Master. Whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. And whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do, discard a card. So kind of like a same ability as Atreus with the draw lots and then discard 1. Then we have Marin of Clan Neltoth. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's mana value is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. This is really good for getting back some of these if they've gotten board wiped or killed. Just getting them back to the battlefield. We have Nest Invader. Enters the battlefield with 0/1 colorless Eldrazi Spawn. Fun. Roaming Throne. I would probably choose Eldrazi for this because, they're going to be generating more tokens. Although, if you really wanted to, you could choose Human, which would allow you, to get, like, your avatar cards online. I would just say it's better value to go with your Eldrazi. We have Toph, Landfall, experience counter, and then whenever you attack, Earthbend X, where X is the number of experience counters. We have Vile Redeemer. When you cast Vile Redeemer, you can pay 1 colorless mana. If you do, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield for each non-token creature that died under your control this turn. So if somebody does Wrath, you can do this to kind of rebuild the board. We have Zuko, Firebending Master. Firebending X, where X is the amount of counters you have. And whenever you cast a spell during combat, you get an experience counter. Sorceries. We're not running a whole lot. Only 7 here. Most of which are, ramp. So we have Cultivate, we have Kodama's Reach, we have Farseek. We have Growth Spasm, which searches for a basic land and puts it on the battlefield and gives you a spawn. We have Malevolent Rumble, which is reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand, put the rest on your graveyard, and then you make a spawn. We have a Brood Birthing. If you control an Eldrazi spawn, put 3 more Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. And then Skittering Invasion, which costs 1 billion mana. Put 5 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrificed this creature. Add 1 generic. Instance, we have a few more. We have Abstruse Appropriation, which is devoid and exile a target non-land permanent. You may cast that card for as long as it remains in exile, and you may spend colorless mana as though or mana of any color to cast the spell. We have Abstruse Interference, which is devoid, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. You put a 1/1 color Scion creature token onto the battlefield. I know it's not a very useful counter spell, but it does give us a Scion. We have Beast Within for a little bit of removal. We have Eldrazi Confluence for 4. Choose 3. You can choose the same mode more than once. Target creature gets +1 or +3, -3 until end of turn. Exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Create a 1/1 colorless Scion. Eldritch Immunity. Target creature you control gains protection from each color until end of turn. You can also overload that. We have Grave Birthing. Target opponent exiles a card from his or her graveyard, and you put a Scion onto the battlefield. And then you also draw a card. Then we have ourselves Heroic Intervention. Make our stuff hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. We have Kozilek's Command. You can create a whole bunch of spawns. You can scry, draw, you can exile creature with mana value X or less, and you can exile up to X cards from graveyards. This actually could work really well with Zuko. When he firebends, then you can cast this at an instant, get yourself some effects off of that. We have Null Elemental Blast. Note, please do note, though, that the firebent mana can only go into the X. You do have to pay 2 colorless mana for the other part of the cost. Choose 1, counter target multicolored spell, destroy target multicolored permanent with Null Elemental Blast. Ugin's Binding. You can return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, and whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana that costs 7 or greater, you may exile Ugin's Binding from your graveyard. When you do, return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. And then we have Warping Whale. For artifacts, we have Chromatic Lantern, so that way our lands tap for any mana color. We have Chromatic Orrery, which is very expensive and deserves a few more reprints. We have our Boots to help protect. We have Panharmonicon in here. We have Skull Clamp, Thran Dynamo, and Timeless Lotus to add the Wooburg. Oh, and who can forget Soul Ring? Sorry, my bad. Awakening Zone. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create a colorless spawn. Cryptolith Right. Your creatures you control become Birds of Paradise. We have Elven Chorus. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast a creature spell from among the top of your library, and creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. We have From Beyond. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 Scion into play, and then you can sack From Beyond, search your library for an Eldrazi card, and reveal it, put it into your hand. We have Kozilek's Unsealing. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, create 2 spawns. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, draw 3 cards. Now, we aren't going to be able to take effect of the second ability because we have no creatures that are 7 or greater. You can always add some of those in there. I mainly have Kozilek's Unsealing in here for token generation. So yes, it's not as effective to not take advantage of both, but we're not trying to cast big, dumb Eldrazi here. Like I said, this is very thematic, like experience counter stack. And then we have Moldavine Reclamation. Whenever a creature you control dies, gain 1 life, draw a card, and Path of Annihilation. When it enters, you create 2 spawns, and spawns become Birds of Paradise. And whenever you cast a creature spell of mana value 7 or greater, gain 4 life. So again, the last part of this is shut off. We're not running any of the Titans. We're not running like the Desolator Twins or whatever they are, or the one that turns off odds and evens. Then for our lands, we have 44. Now, we are running a lot of lands because this is a Wooburg deck, right? We are running a lot of lands because of this. We do have 4 of each of our colored basics. We do have Waste in here. We do have Urborg in here. I believe, yeah, we have Yavimaya in here. I put Urza's Saga. I put the Tron lands in here. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon. It's pretty mixed bag. The World Tree is in here because although you're not going to find, if you wanted to sack it to find your Atreus, be my guest. But it does make it so if you have 6 or more lands, your lands tap for any color, which is very useful in a Wooburg deck. Let me know what you think of this deck. I know it's pretty janky, it's pretty clunky, but I wanted to do something pretty fun today. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. As always, I am Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.